Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us at the Microsoft Power BI UK user group. I'm your host Leon Gordon, and we're back once again for opportunity to come together as a community and learn more about Power BI and the Microsoft Azure platform. With that being said, I would love to hear where you're joining us from today. Hopefully you're having some sun like we're having now, although literally about 15 minutes ago it was raining, so this is the joys of the UK weather. But where you're joining us from, please do let us know so we can hear everything you'd like to learn in today's session and hear more about where you're calling us from. So with that being said, we do have the Q&A, which is now open. So please do feel free to interact and ask your questions throughout today's session, as always. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you a bit of a background in terms of today's speaker. So today we're going to have a deep dive into Azure Data Factory, Azure Logic Apps and Power BI with Alpa Buddhabhatti. Now, Alpa is an Azure consultant with a passion for data and technology at Cluster Reply UK. She is a Microsoft certified trainer and certified in Azure Data Engineer and Azure Data Science, and she is working on Azure services such as Logic Apps, Azure Functions, Azure Key Vault, obviously Azure Data Factory, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, I'll just pass you over to Alpa for her session.
Yeah, thank you, Leon.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Yeah. Thank you all and welcome to my session, Azure Data Factory, Azure Logic Apps, Power BI for everyone, here at Microsoft Power BI UK user group. In this session, I will show you few techniques. So how you can use all them together, or you can use like only Logic Apps, or you can do a combination of Azure Logic Apps and Data Factory to refresh your Power BI dataset. So now let's see myself. As you know now much about me, so I'm just quickly finish this. So you can find me in LinkedIn. I also have uploaded my presentation and GitHub repo and few documents regarding how to create Azure Data Factory, how to create individual components of Azure Data Factory, how to create logic apps, and how to connect them together. Those all things I have documented and uploaded in here. So let's start with today's agenda. Today's agenda is mainly divided into 4 parts. So in first part, I'm going to give you like overview of Azure Data Factory, and then we're going to see a quick tour of Azure Data Factory. Then after, we're going to see a Azure Logic Apps overview, and we see a quick tour of Azure Logic Apps. And then we're going to see a very quick introduction in few lines of Power BI, because I'm assume you all know about Power BI. So, and then we deep dive into demo using the Logic Apps, Azure Data Factory, and Power BI. And here we are refreshing our Power BI dataset. So now let's start with first one, which is Azure Data Factory. So what is Azure Data Factory? Azure Data Factory is a cloud-based data integration service that orchestrates and automates the movement and transformation of your data at a scale. It is very important service which you use in your big data or real like big data situation or modern data warehouse. So now let's see what else you can say about Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is a platform as a service, and it's a serverless. So because of these two reasons, you don't need to worry about compute infrastructure or software installation or web server configuration or those kind of things. So you can fully focus on your implementation, and you can do it very, very quickly. And because of these two reasons, you only pay for what you have used. So for example, your Azure Data Factory is running, then you get charged. Otherwise, there is no any charge, such as, however, you paying small amount of charge, which is a storage, but it can be negligible. So it's a cost effective, and it's a low code or no code solution. So you can very quickly build your pipeline by just drag and drop without writing a code in programming language like Scala, Python, and Java. You still can get the same features by just drag and drop components. And last but not least, you can easily integrate with other Azure services. For example, Azure Cognitive Service, Azure Databricks, Azure Machine Learning, and many more. So these in sort a Azure Data Factory. So now let's see key components of Azure Data Factory. So first one is a linked service. So link service, if you compare link service with SSIS, then you can say that SSIS has a connection manager. So it's the same as a link service in a ADF. So link service hold the connection string of your data source. It's authorize your data source so you can use them later on in Azure Data Factory by other component. For example, next component which is a dataset. So once you have created your link service, then you can create your datasets, and your dataset is nothing but is hold the reference of your data, or it's a metadata about of your data. So for example, your link service pointing to Azure SQL Server, then your data set in a form of the table. But if your link service is pointing to a REST API, then your data set it's in form of JSON file. So data set is like a reference of your data. So once you have a link service ready, you have a data set ready, then you can add up pipelines, and your pipeline can have activities. And this activity can have a sequential activity or parallel activity. And activity do a specific task. For example, copy activity, copy data from one data source to another data source. You can have a machine learning activity, you can have Azure function activity, you can have a Databricks activity, and you have so many other activities which I'm going to show you during the quick tour of Azure Data Factory. So for that, you first need a pipeline. So you will create a pipeline, and then inside your pipeline, you can add a activity. So you can say pipeline is a logical group of your activity which perform a specific business requirements. So once you have ready your pipeline, you need to trigger it out, schedule it or trigger it. So for that, triggers come into picture. So this is the fifth component of your Azure Data Factory. I will show you later on in this session how you can trigger, like various way to trigger your pipeline. So these are the five main components of your Azure Data Factory. Apart from this, there is a one more which is integration runtime. But at the beginner level, you don't need to worry about integration runtime. And even though if you need to create it, you can very quickly create by few button clicks away. And Azure Data Factory will provide a default one, which is auto integration runtime, which is nothing but a compute infrastructure. And if you have like on-premise data source like SQL Server or Oracle database, or SFTP, then you can use a self-hosted integration runtime, which you can create it in a few buttons, click away. So these are the key components of Azure Data Factory. Now let's move into next one, which is what can you do in Azure Data Factory so you get idea why you need Azure Data Factory. The first one is copy data. So for that, you can use the copy activity in your pipeline, or you can use a copy data tool. And you can copy from various different data source from one source to another source. So here I will show you few data source. So for example, you can copy your data from different cloud service, other cloud service, for example, AWS or Google Cloud. You can move your data or copy your data from on-premise systems such as SQL Server or Oracle Server or Oracle Database. You can move your data from a system like Salesforce, CRM 365. You can use Azure function, HTTP web call or REST API, or you can use a SFTP. So these are the sample data source you can use as a source, and then you can move them using the copy activity from different data source or same data source, whichever way you prefer. So this way you can move your data or copy your data from one data source to another data source, and that's you can do it very quickly by just setting few properties. So in Azure Data Factory, for moving data, you can have a more than 100 data source available. And this is the link which help you to find out which data source you can use as a source or as a sink or both of them. And if your data source is not available in this list, you can use blob storage or data lake gen 2 to move your data in first place in that area, and then you can use another techniques. So this is called a data movements. So in Azure Data Factory, you can do a data movements and you can do it very, very quickly by just drag and drop few components and setting few properties. And it help you to move your data up to petabyte of data as well, like huge amount of data you can move as well, and you can do it very quickly. So now let's, what you can do, then you can do a data transformation. For that, Azure Data Factory has a mapping data flow, and behind the scene it's used the Apache Spark cluster, and its cluster will spin up and it will work like how you writing your code in Scala, Python, and Java, or in Apache, another language. Similar way it's work here, but you just need to do here is drag and drop. It's a no code or low code solution. So you just need to connect one component to another components and set few properties. So let's see example. So these are the sample data source you can use for a mapping data flow as a source. Then you apply some transformation like how you do, for example, SQL language. How you do in SQL language, you can union to data source, you can join them, you can add new columns, you can apply window function, and so many things you do it, those things. But here you do same thing, but you do it by just drag and drop components without writing code. So once you apply transformation, then you can move into different data source or same data source. So for that, mapping data flow allow you to do around 12 data sources plus 4 new data sources which recently have added. So around 16 data sources is available. So this is the link which help you to find out which data source you can use as a source or as a sink for your transformation in Azure Data Factory for a mapping data using the mapping data flow. And this is called a data transformation. So this mapping data flow or copy activity will help you to move your data and transform your data, which is again very important part in your modern data warehouse where you do extract, transform and load, or extract, load and transform. In both places you need Azure Data Factory. So this is second thing you can do it in Azure Data Factory. Apart from this, it help you to do source control. So for example, as I showed you, tell you earlier that it has 5 different components. So those components or any components when you create using the Azure Data Factory, behind the scene, Azure Data Factory generate a JSON code. However, you don't need to worry about it at all because it's generated automatically for you. And this code you can use for your source control, and that you can use for your continuous integration and continuous delivery pipeline for release mechanism. So this one thing that it allow you to do a source control as well. It allow you to use the Git integration built in using the browser. By just a few button clicks away, you can set up your Git repository, which I will show you during demo as well. And you can use Azure DevOps Kit or a GitHub. It allows you to monitor your components and it allows you to manage your components using the UI. And last but not least, it helps you to trigger your pipelines in different way. So like for example, you can trigger your pipeline based on a specific time. For example, early morning or 4 p.m. evening or any time you prefer. Or you can trigger your pipeline based on events. For example, when a file moved to your blob storage or file deleted from your blob storage, at that time you can trigger Azure Data Factory pipeline. And if you're not finding any scenario in here, then you can use a custom activity. So you can trigger your pipeline based on Azure function, logic apps. You can write down a code in a PowerShell, or you can use a C# or any other language. And for that, it doing customized way in programmatically way, and that use SDK, Azure Data Factory SDK, to trigger your pipeline. So this is Azure Data Factory, and those things you can do in Azure Data Factory. Now let's move into quick tour of Azure Data Factory. Before that, I just would like to say that I have added here one link where I have written step-by-step instruction to create your Azure Data Factory, create a pipeline, data set, data flow, and how to set up a Git repository. And those all things I have mentioned in here already. So if you like to do at your time. So now let's go to browser here. Um, so this is portal.azure.com. So here you can create your Azure Data Factory. So for that, you just need to search Data Factory. So if you search here Data Factory, then it's few button click away. You can create your Data Factory. You select your resource group, subscription, and then you create your resource group or select your resource group. Then you will type a unique name here. Then you select a region, and this is recommended because previous version will deprecate it soon, or it already deprecated. So yeah, so you just typing here anything, but you need to type suitable name. And then this is the important things. So let's go to next step. So if you already know your organization, project name and repository name, then you can add here. Otherwise, you can click here later on because this is a mandatory things. Unless and until you do this, it won't allow you to create your data factory. So that's it. Let's keep it for later. And that's it. Now you can create and review. So this way you can create your first data factory. It takes few minutes or seconds. So while it's doing that, so it's look like this. Once you have created your data factory, then when you go to your resource group and you select your data factory, it look like this. So here you want to open your a studio. So let's open the studio. So you will see how it looks when it land here. So so it's look like this. So here you can see that there are a lot of materials available here. You can browse the link differently and you can get more information as well. You can see a few templates which you can use as well. You can see here your history as well, and you can create here. So these are the these are the main three components, or you can say module. So this is manage module. So here you can create your link service. So let's create very quickly link service. So these are the data sources. As I said, there are more than 100 data sources available. So these are all data sources. So let's select the blob storage and continue. You can give a suitable name, and this is the integration runtime. By default is auto integration runtime if your source and sync both are in a cloud or like that. Otherwise, if it's on premise, then you need to create another self-hosted integration runtime by just clicking here, and it's like few button clicks away you can do that. So here you can use your authentication type, and this is recommended, but I'm just using at the moment connection string. You select your subscription, you select your storage account. I'm just selecting anything. That's it. So when you create your link service, you're providing this information because here is a storage account. So I'm just providing a access key, and this is a button. First of all, you have to test it. If it's successfully connected, then it's then you can use it for the other, like when you're creating data sets or data flow. That's it. So this way you can see that few button clicks away, you can create your link service, and you can do it for different data sources. Okay. So now, and this, so you can create it, and here you can see that code in JSON code, which is automatically created for you. And you will see that who is using. So at the moment, no one is using. So this is a link service. Here you can see integration runtime. This is by default one. Again, this is a JSON code as well. If you go here, and you can create new as well in few buttons away, you can do that. This is Azure Purview, which give you a lineage view of your like which field from which table or which file is used for your pipeline or activity. That's you can see in a Azure Purview. Then you can set up your Git repository here. You can use ARM templates. So you can export this ARM template when you want to manually create your data factory in different environments. So you can do export, and then in other environment you just need to import it. So that's where you can do that. You can see triggers which you can create here, which is very quick by few buttons away. If global parameters across your pipeline data factory, so like for example you have 5 pipelines but they all using that setting values, then you can create here, and when you use CI/CD pipeline you can um, configure that in your CI/CD pipeline, so it will automatically update from there. You can have your manage endpoint, you can have your custom key. These all things is for a managing purpose. And so now let's move into next step, which is a monitor. So this tab help you to monitor your pipelines or any other your components of your Azure Data Factory. For example, pipelines, triggers, integration, runtime, data flow, and alert or matrix. You can create alert or matrix as well. For example, you want to know that certain things is happen. Like for example, threshold, like queuing time is above the threshold time, then you should notify it. Then you can set up a few condition, and based on that you will get an email. So you can do that as well here by just clicking here, like by just adding here. So that is a monitor tab. And now let's go to this one, which is very important one. Here you can create your pipelines, data set, data flow, power query, and templates. And that you just do it by here, by click button and right click in here, and here you can change name as well. And here you can see who has used that as well. And these are all activities, as I said you earlier, they have so many activities available. So you can see that you can have Azure function activity, you have a batch service activity, you can have a data breaks, data lake analytics, and this is general activities. So it's like you can execute another pipeline, child pipeline as well. You can use metadata activity, you can have a store procedure, lookup, and so many activities you can see here. And for iteration, you can see that you have here filter, for each loop, if condition, switch, and until. So these all are activities, and it's drag and drop, as I said you. So let's add here one activity. This is a very simple activity, drag and drop, search it, drag and drop, that's it. And you can save as well, and you can run in like by just about here, and you can view here result as well. So it's green means status means success. That can be a in progress or waiting or queuing or those kind of things you can see here. If it's queuing or in progress one, or it can success. And this arrow is input, and sometimes you get output arrow as well. So output arrow will show you other information, small information if you want to see. And when you publish it, it generates ARM templates, and that ARM template you can use for your CI/CD pipeline. And let's go to here because we going to create here. So this is a data factory. When you create your first data factory, and if you go to here, you will see that there is no any git setup. So you will see here, it will tell you something. Let's yeah, set up your code repository. So that one you can do in by just clicking here, or you can go to manage tab and you can click here, or you can go to in here. You can see that here it's saying set up your git repository. So you click here, you select your repository name, you select your subscription, and you continue, and then you will select here organizer name, you select your project names, and you select your repository name. This you first need to create in a dev.azure.com, and you select your branch name. You can create new one as well. This ADF underscore publish branch, which used for ARM templates. When you click here publish button, it's automatically generate for you here, which is a JSON code. That's it. You apply here and it will set up your Git repository. That's it. So it look like this now. Once you set up your Git repository, it's this one. So here you can create new branch, you can create pull requests, and this is a live mode. When your pull request is approved and the code is merged into main branch, and then when you click here, it will generate ARM templates and then it deploy into a live mode. So this is a quick overview of Azure Data Factory. But before that, let me show you one more thing. So similar way, you can create data set here by just a click here. You can create a data flow as well by just clicking here. And this is a data flow. So you need to select your data source and sink. And then you will see that you can add here so many things. This plus button. See, these are the operations you can do it, which you doing maybe in SQL language or a linked queue or C# or like that. Just you need to select it. So this is a data flow. So now let's go back because let's close. There are so many things here. So this is a very quick overview of Azure Data Factory. Now let's go back to slide and let's move into next topic, which is the logic apps. So let's see quick overview of logic apps. So what is Azure Logic Apps? So it is a cloud-based platform for creating and running automated workflow that integrate your apps, data, service and system. So mainly when you want to do automated task, at that time you can use Azure Logic Apps. So if you want to see few examples, then let's see that you want to schedule an email and send an email when something happens. So for that, you can use a logic apps and you can do it that very, very quickly. A few buttons clicks away, you create your task or workflow, which schedule a email for you and send an email for you. So that is a one example. And another example, let's imagine that you have a SFTP folder or FTP folder. And when file arrives into that folder, you would like to move that file into Azure blob storage. You like to do some process and then move that file from a SFTP or a FTP location to a Azure blob storage, and you want to do this automatically, then you can use a logic apps. So this is a simple examples, but you can do so many things using the Azure logic apps. So this is another examples. And for example, if you have a social like tweet, when tweet post and you like to know what it about. For example, your customer has uh, edit something in tweet, posted tweets about your service, and you'd like to know the sentiment behind that comment, then you can use logic apps and cognitive service, and you can build that workflow very, very quickly, which apply the sentiment analysis on a customer feedbacks, and it tell you if it's negative feedback. It notify you by email or message. So these are the few scenarios where you can use Azure Logic Apps. So now let's see what is Logic Apps. So it is a Azure platform as a service and it uses a cloud-based serverless engine. That means you don't need to worry about hosting, scaling, managing, monitoring, and maintaining your solution. That's why you can quickly build your Logic Apps or workflow, which you can automate it. Here, if you choose a consumption based method, then you only pay for what you have consumed. If so, there is no any charge if you're not running your logic apps. It's no code or low code solution. So you can quickly drag and drop few components and you can create your workflow. It has inbuilt a custom connector. For example, sending email, it has like SendGrid, it has Office 365, it has a Gmail, Office, Outlooks. So many connectors is available for sending the email only. So you can use them very quickly by just dragging that components and setting few parameters. And if your connector is not available in this list, then you can create your own connector. You can create a custom connector. So for example, you have one application which is in a language which you don't know. For example, it's maybe in COBOL or Pascal or maybe in Java and you don't know about that, then you don't need to worry about it all. You just create a custom connector and you can use a logic apps, and logic apps will handle it, do a communication in a different language very quickly for you. So if you need more information, then this is the link which help you to how to start your journey or how to start logic apps. There are a lot of information here. So now let's move into quick overview, quick tour of the logic apps. And here I have also documented few information and I have uploaded into GitHub as well. So like how to create logic apps and what other important information like step by step you want to do, then it's there. So now let's go to browser page. So this is the way. So when you create your first, let's go to portal dot. So you need to go to portal.azure.com, and then how we created Azure Data Factory. Same way you need to create logic apps. You add new logic apps by just clicking here, and you need to provide a suitable name. I'm just giving random name. You need to select a location which is closest to your data or users, and you can see here you can select its publish in window or docker mode, and then you can create and review. So in few button click away you can create your logic apps. So I already have it, so I'm just not I'm just canceling this. So once you create it, and when you go to your resource group and select that logic apps, your landing page look like this. So this is first logic apps, and you can see that here overview. Here you will get more ideas about your location and subscription and many other information. You can clone your logic apps, you can disable your logic apps if you don't want for a temporary, and when you need it you just click here, it enable you. um, this is your logic app design view. So it's look like this because you haven't created your logic app yet. And this is a code view which is in JSON format. And here you don't need to worry about code because it's automatically create JSON code as long as you drag and drop few components here. And here you can export a template as well. If you want to use in different environment, then you can export as well. So let's go to here. So this is the logic apps. So you can see that these are the trigger. So in logic apps, trigger is a main important things. Triggers define condition, like which condition you want to do something. For example, this condition appears, you want to execute some steps. So trigger is the main important thing and is the first important part in your logic app. So you need to decide trigger first and then you can add an action, which is your workflow. So you can see that these are the actions, triggers. If it's not available, then you can create your own triggers as well. And these are the templates is available. This is ready-made templates. You can do so many things. You can use the tweets. You can use Outlook, Office. You can use even Power BI as well. So these are the old templates you can use by just clicking here. But let's create a trigger first. So this is we are creating HTTP triggers, and now let's add the steps, and let's we use sending email. So we use Gmail action. So let's select Gmail one, and we are going to send the email. So this is action, and you can do this dynamic. I'm just doing hard coded one. You can have more parameters as well, but I'm just skipping that, and that's it. You can save it and you can run it by just here. So when it's run successfully, I got email as well here in my mobile in Gmail, and you will see here green marks. That means it send the email to whom. Then you can say this email ID, and if you go to here in overview, you will see history. This one. Okay, and if you see open here, you will get more ideas. If there is any issue, then you can trace out here as well, like what is input parameter, what is output parameters, and why it's fail as well. And you can expand here as well, many things. So this is a logic apps overview. Now let's go back to presentation. And third one is Power BI overview. So here I'm giving very quick overview because I assume you all know about Power BI. So what is a Power BI? So Power BI is a collection of software services, apps and connectors. So your data can be anywhere. Your data can be in a Excel spreadsheet, cloud or on premise. So Power BI help you to connect your data source. It help you to apply some transformation. It help you to create reports, and it help you to share, visualize them and share with anyone you like to share. So this is a Power BI in short. And if you need more information, then this is the link which help you more about that. And now let's see components of Power BI. So there are three main components. So let's see first one. So which is a Power BI desktop. So this is a desktop application. It's a window-based application. So you download it, you install it in your laptop, and then you can connect with different data sources. You can use Azure SQL Server like Azure resources, or you can use another cloud resources, or you can use Excel file or your on-premise database. So you connect using the Power BI, you get data from different source, then you can apply transformation, you can create reports using your Power BI desktop. So once your report is ready or data set is ready, you need to publish it. And for that, you need a Power BI service. And Power BI service, you need account. And here, when you publish using the Power BI desktop, your data set will be published in Power BI service. And here you can manage it. You can share with someone, you can create a dashboards and applications, and you do so many things in a Power BI service, which is a web-based interface. It's REST API interface. So this is a second service, and third one is a Power BI mobile apps. As its name suggests, it's related to mobile. So when you want to consume your reports using the mobile device like Android or Windows Phone or iPhone, you can use Power BI mobile apps. So these are the three main components of Power BI. So now let's move into fourth topic now, which is a final demo. So in this demo, we are going to use the Power BI imported datasets using the Azure SQL Server, and we're using Logic Apps and Azure Data Factory. So what happens when you have a Power? Let's go to problem statement first. So for example, here you have a Power BI imported dataset, and you would like to refresh, or frequency of your refreshing your Power BI dataset is more than 8 times or 48 times, which is a limited based on your license. So what you else you can do? Also, if you want to refresh your Power BI when something happen, for example, when your data source updated or your data warehouse populated with new data, only and only if you want to refresh your Power Data based on those things, then uh, Power BI have a schedule facility which is not helping at the moment. Or or if you want to refresh your Power BI dataset as a part of orchestration. So at that time, you need to use something else. You can use Azure Data Factory only, or you can use Logic Apps only, or you can use combination of both, or you can use Microsoft workflow or Azure function or something like that. But in this demo, I'm going to show you Azure Data Factory and Azure Logic Apps for that. So now let's go to here. Let's see high level design of that. So let's see that we have Azure Data Factory and we have a key vaults. Key vaults hold the secrets, and key vault is a central place. So when your database password has changed, or your storage password has changed, or access key has changed, so you can store into key vaults. So like there are three systems using your data source, then you don't need to go to all three places and change it. You just change key vaults and it reflect everywhere. So that's why key vault is very good to use. And another reason is to security as well. So I have keywords as well, and I have a logic apps. So logic apps will refresh my Power BI. That's why I have used logic apps. So let's see, in my Azure Data Factory, I have a pipeline one which load a data into, for example, Azure SQL Server or warehouse. So when they, or maybe this, or your Azure SQL table updated by any third party tools, or maybe third party system which updating, or adding a new row into your table. So that is the first thing. If this happen, then I want to trigger my refresh my Power BI data flow. Sorry, data set. So for that, I have another Azure Data Factory pipeline, and in my pipeline, I have a web activity, and this web activity is calling the logic apps. And then logic apps have a inbuilt of action, which is a refresh of data set. So logic apps will refresh your data set and it's come back to here. And this all no code or no code solution. So let's see, if you want to create, if you need more detailed information, then I already have uploaded in GitHub as well. So in order to create this kind of solution, you need resources. So like you need Azure Resource Group, Data Factory, Logic Apps, Azure SQL Server, Key Vaults, and Power BI dataset. And these are the tools. So for example, Azure Data Factory and Logic Apps, Key Vaults, and Azure Resource Server. For that, you need Azure subscription, which you can use a free, or you can create by your credit card. You can create your account as well, or you can use a Visual as a part of Visual Studio subscription. And you need Power BI Desktop, which you can download it using here. And you need a Power BI service, which you can go to app app.powerbi.com or dev.powerbi.com, and it's free license also available, and you can have a pro license if you want to do some enhanced things. So now let's go back to presentation, and we're going to see now demo. So let's go to home page, and so this is my resource group, which is Power BI, and these are all resources. So this is my data factory, this is the key vaults. So let's start with key vaults. So this is the key vaults which hold the secrets for my Azure SQL connection string. And these are the three secrets, which is client ID, client secrets, and tenant ID, which is when you register your application, at that time you can have it this. So I have stored in here. Okay, so these are the secrets. So that is the key vaults, and you have to give access policy here in order to use that into your Azure Data Factory. So this is my Azure Data Factory, and I have added policy by here. So let's close that one. So that is a key vault. So I have to go back, going to resource group. So that is a key vault, and then after I have logic apps. So this is the logic apps which refreshing. Yeah, this is the logic apps which refreshing my Power BI dataset. So this is my workspace name for my Power BI, and this is my dataset. Okay, so that is one thing. Let's go back. So that is a logic apps, and then you can see that I have a database, which is, I think I already have open here. So this is my SQL database or warehouse. So when new entry comes into this table, my Azure Data Factory pipeline will run, and it will find out that its new data came or not. And based on that, it will call logic apps, and logic app refresh the Power BI dataset. So let's go to here. I'm just trying to search my logic apps. Okay, let me open new one here in new window. So this is my logic apps, and so you can see that in my logic apps, so there are two different way you can do that. So if you want to do without logic apps as well, because you already have Azure Data Factory and you don't want to introduce a logic apps, then you can do it by just this way. You can refresh your Power BI dataset using the only and only Azure Data Factory. So for that you need app registration, and you getting secrets from app registration from key vaults, client ID, tenant ID, and client secrets. Then you generating tokens, and here you are calling your Power BI datasets. So this is the your uh, REST URL of Power BI, and here you are concatenating your datasets and workspace name. That's it, and it will refresh your Power BI dataset. And here you can apply more things, like for example, though it said refresh but it didn't refresh, or there is any errors, then you can add more information here. So this is a one way. But if you want to do this way, then you have to have a permission in your Power BI service as a admin. And you don't have it, then you have to ask someone in your team, like network team, who can give you that access, or who can do it behalf of you. So you need to give a permission in that uh, in admin portal in your Power BI service. So that is one way you can do it. And another way you can do it, that you just ask logic apps to do for you. So for that, you can see that this is a lookup activity in my Azure Data Factory. And this lookup activity, you can see that it has here few settings. It's checking a table that new entries arrived or not based on this flag. You can do many different way. This is very simple way I just added. So if there is a new entry came into table, then and then my if condition will execute this part. Otherwise, it won't do anything. So for example, if at the moment I run, let's go to here. So here you can see that it has it found a new entry. That's why it's refreshed the Power BI dataset and it's updated again back. But if I run again, then it won't come here. It won't execute this two activity. So let's run this one, because there is a no new data in my table. So at the time it came into if condition, but it did a false part, because if you go to in table and if you select here that where new user flag is one, you won't find anything. But if I insert now here new record, generally this can be done in pipeline, but I just doing this way. So now I'm inserting one and I'm setting flag as one, which is true. So and if I now come to here and if I run this again, so it's trying to find out that new data arrived in table or not. And then if we find that is new data arrived, then you can see that it comes into here. It's checking here that new data comes or not. If it's true, then this is the one which refreshing Power BI. So for that, here I have used a logic apps. So this is my logic apps URL. That's it. I just passing that URL. So logic app will execute it, and then it's come back here, and then I'm just updating back my table. So that flag will be 0 after this. And if you go here, you will, if you check here, then you will get idea that it has refreshed. Um, you can notice time as well, that it has refreshed Power BI dataset. So let's come back here. So that it. And if you check here if condition, then you will see that. Let's go to here. This is the setting. So I'm just saying that if it's returning anything, then it's true, otherwise it's false. So if, for example, at the moment it's return value, but now if I run this, it won't return anything because it's now 0 because flag is now not 1. That's why. So let's go back to here. Let's cancel it. So this is the demo which using the Azure Data Factory and Azure Logic Apps to refresh your Power BI dataset. So now let's see without only Logic Apps. Before that, let me refresh this. So you can see when Azure Data Factory has ran Logic Apps, you can see this is the history here. And if you check here, then this Logic Apps has refreshed the dataset, which is a workspace, and this is a report, which is a dataset. And you can do without Azure Data Factory as well. You just come to your Logic Apps and you can trigger this one. You can schedule this one based on selecting different trigger. Here maybe you can add when database connection, when SQL table has Azure SQL table has a new entry, you can add here as well. Then you don't need a data factory as well. You can run here as well. This is I'm running manually, but you can select a different trigger, so it will automatically trigger on that time. So this is another way you can do that. And apart from that, if you don't want to use Logic Apps or you don't want to use Azure Data Factory, then you can use Microsoft Workflow as well, which is also no code, low code. And if you like to coding, then you can use Azure Function or something else, which can refresh your Power BI dataset like coding with C# code. So now let's go back to presentation and see what left. So with that, let's conclude this session. So we have seen Azure Data Factory, which is a cloud-based data integration service, which is a platform as a service, serverless. You can create your pipeline by just drag and drop. You can parameterize your pipeline. You can operationalize your pipeline, and you can create a orchestration. And you use Azure Data Factory for extract, load, and transform, or extract, transform, and load. So this is our Azure Data Factory. Uh, Next part is Azure Logic Apps. So Azure Logic Apps, it's a integration service. You can easily integrate it with application, data, system, and service. It is a platform as a service. It has a serverless engine. Uh, it is also no code or low code solution, and you mainly use for automation. If you want to automate your workflow, you use a Logic Apps, and you can build it very, very quickly. So these are the two services. Apart from that, we have seen a quick overview of Power BI overview. So here you can see that it's like a collection of software services, application, and connectors. You can build your model here. You can visualize data, and you can share with anyone you like. And then we have seen a demo to refresh the Power BI dataset using the Azure Data Factory, Azure Logic Apps, and Power BI. So with that, I would like to thank you for attending this session, and I'm now open with a question.
Excellent session there. Thank you very much, Alpa. You've gone through a lot of functionality in such a short space of time across, obviously, the Azure platform. So thank you very much for that. As you mentioned, we are open now for any questions. Just before we do go into some of the questions, I've just placed an anonymous feedback form within the Q&A, the chat functionality. So please do, if you are participating, take time to let us know which sessions you would like us to put on in the future and how we can make and improve our sessions as well going forward. So with that being said, our first question, Alpa, is an anonymous question, and they ask, does Logic Apps work similarly to Power Automate, or are there any differences?
Yeah, it's similar ways too. Logic Apps will do automation, like how you can use like Power Workflow or Power Automation. Similar way you can use Logic Apps. It like it's up to us like which one we are familiar. We use that one, but they do similar things. So automates task, and Logic Apps support so many connectors. so many different connectors. And specifically when you want to do like integration, like your app integration, data integration, or even IoT situation, you can use logic apps. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Our next question comes in from Dean, and they ask, with Power Automate and a Pro Power BI license, he can only refresh the Power BI dataset 8 times per day. Using
Yep.
Premium gives allows 48 refreshes per day.
Yeah.
The question is, can you exceed these limits using Logic Apps?
Yeah, definitely. Because here you're doing event-based refresh. So that's why, because there is a limitation in that side, in Power BI side, that you can maximum do 8 times or 48 times depending on a license. But if you use Logic apps, then you can trigger many times. Like it can be scheduled maybe every seconds or every 10 seconds or like, or whenever it's something happen. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for going through that for us. And then our final anonymous question is, how does Key Vault work? You create your own passwords to enter into certain apps. Like, for example, if this user has a sensitive data, you create them so only certain users can access.
Yep. So like keyword service, like you create a key vault and then you can store secrets or certificates. So for that, like if you want to store the password, then you can store in secrets one, and it used by anyone whoever have access. So it's not like you can one person, like everyone can see it. Who have access, they can see it. But generally we use for application. So for example, I have Azure SQL database connection string. So I have created key vaults, and key vaults has my connection string in a key vaults. So my Azure Data Factory, I think it's better I will show you here because we have a time as well. So this is a link service. So you can see that this link service here, I'm not saying here anything, password or database name or anything, because I'm using this secrets and I'm using this secrets from this key vault. Okay, so like whoever using this Azure Data Factory, whoever have a contributor access to access this resource, they can see it. They can see it here, but not like in other one. So this secret has actual connection string, and so now I can test it without typing a connection string because I don't know database name or anything. Key Vault secrets has everything here: password, database name, username, everything. So you can create that way, especially you do for that situation. So like for example, you want to use the same SQL server in different application as well, then in that application you can use this secret name rather than actual database name, username and password. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, is that answer your question?
I believe so, definitely. Yes, thank you, Alpa. And that concludes all of our questions coming in so far for today. So once again, I'd just like to thank you for what's been an absolutely fantastic session and for sharing your knowledge with the Microsoft Power BI UK user group.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leon.
And I'd just like to thank everybody that's been with us today to share the knowledge and have the Azure Data Factory, Azure Logic Apps and Power BI session with Alpa Buddhabhatti. As always, this session has been brought to you in association with Onyx Data. Stay tuned, because we will be back with some more sessions within the future. And please do fill in the feedback form as we do take it on board to continue to provide you learning opportunities within the community. So once again, thank you very much. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you've been here with us at the Microsoft Power BI UK user group. Stay safe. See you soon.